What's up, everyone, and welcome to Metalcore Nerds. I'm your host, Sean Mott. And Moon Knight Episode 4 probably left everyone thinking, what the fuck is going on? But don't worry, I'm here to help you and try and explain it with my co-host, Mike Skyros. What's going on, man?
What's going on, man? Glad to be back for this episode. I know you were hyping it up a lot, and it lived up to it. So let's break it
I'm
down. I'm
glad, I'm
looking forward
glad.
to getting into it.
I'm glad I didn't overhype it for most people. Some
No,
people it seemed like it got overhyped, but I'm glad it's landing with a lot of people because I really, really love this episode. But before we get into Moon Knight, as always, we're going to talk a little bit about what we were watching. I'm sure Mike has nothing, but we'll get into that. But did you watch the new Thor: Love and Thunder teaser trailer? Did you watch
I
that?
did watch that. I did.
Okay, cool, cool. It was only 90 seconds, so it wasn't a lot,
Yeah,
but man, it broke the record for Marvel trailers for the first trailer coming out the closest to its release. And I think it's obviously on purpose. The Marvel's got a lot going on right now. Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness comes out in a few weeks. Moon Knight's still going on. Miss Marvel comes out in June. They got a lot of shit going on, so it's crazy, and it's Thor 4. I think most people are already gonna go see it. But I talk about the bubble all the time. A lot of us live in this like pop culture bubble where we know everything, but the casual fan that makes up 95% of the box office, they have no idea of any of this shit. They probably saw the trailer and like, oh, I forgot a Thor, or maybe they had no idea that a Thor movie was coming out this summer. So
yeah.
it's good they put that teaser out there. I thought it was super fun. I do think it's insanely misleading though, because the villain is called Gore the God Butcher. He's being played by Christian Bale, and his name lives up lives up to the hype for
Yeah,
that one. And I think it's going to take a very big tonal shift probably in the next trailer when they probably show him. I would imagine. I do love that they
yeah.
showed pretty much nothing. Just that like Thor's trying to find himself and find his purpose in life after the events of Endgame and shit like that. I love that we're going to get a workout montage of how he gets back in shape. Uh,
Absolutely.
I
Yes.
I hope there's a Bowflex involved because Star Lord mentions a Bowflex in Infinity War. It'd be amazing if a Bowflex is involved and they're both working out
Oh my
together.
God.
But if not, I'll live with it as long as we're getting a workout montage. "Sweet Child of Mine" was the song in the trailer. It all looks super fucking 80s. Olympus and Zeus look fucking wild. The imagery and the colors in this are very Taika Waititi. So I'm super stoked for this movie. What did you think of the teaser trailer?
I enjoyed it. I thought like ever since they did Thor 3 and they've kind of taken like this more, for lack of a better term, like fun direction. I've enjoyed that a ton. Um, I like that Jane Foster seems to be a big part of this upcoming movie.
The
And
Mighty Thor.
yeah, I read a little background as you mentioned on Gore the God Butcher. He seems like he's gonna be a super badass character, and
Yeah.
yeah, he'll definitely like bring things a little bit back to earth for all those guys. But I enjoyed the last Thor film a ton, and I don't
Yep.
see any reason why I wouldn't enjoy this one.
Yeah. Yeah. Taika Waititi he's very good at what he does. I don't know if you've
Yeah,
seen Jojo Rabbit, but that movie is also amazing. Mostly funny, but has really, really dark undertones and does get emotional. He is very good at that. That was like my one qualm with Thor 3 is that a lot of impactful shit happened to Thor and they kind of glanced over it. I still love the movie, but his best friends
yeah,
die, his dad dies, his Mjolnir gets crushed, he loses Asgard, and then they're kind of just like, yeah, they do deal with it in Infinity War when he has that conversation with Rocket, which I appreciated. But I would have liked to had some kind of like emotional like outpour from Thor within the movie. But that's literally my only gripe with that movie. But yeah, Jane Foster, Mighty Thor in the comics. I think she's confirmed in an interview that she's going to have cancer in the movie too. And then every
oh,
time
well, yeah,
she wields the hammer, it like undoes any chemo and stuff she does. So I'm very interested to see how they play with that storyline because they're this is both taken from Jason Aaron's Thor run, but it's like a massive story. It's like two omnibuses worth, which is like the volumes are the little books you get, and then omnibuses are like the thicker ones. It's
yeah,
two of those, so it's like it's a lot of story, and they're kind of combining two arcs into one, which is fine. and could be really cool. So I'm very interested to see how they do that. And kind of, I'm guessing, Gore goes on a god killing spree, obviously, and Thor has to stop him. But I'm interested to see how Jane Foster comes into play. 'Cause in the comics, to defeat Gore, it's 3 Thors versus Gore, and it's 3 Thors from different time periods in his life. It's like super, super young Thor. Then it's like Avenger Thor, which would kind of probably be around what Thor we had now. And then it's like an Odin Thor, where he's from the future and he's the only person left in Asgard. And he looks kind of like Odin, but like more metal. He has got the eye patch. He has like his arm got cut off, so he has arm from, I think it's called a destroyer or something, but it's that one thing that Loki sends to Earth in the first Thor. He has like
Yeah.
that as his arm. It's pretty wild. So maybe they do that with, like him, Jane Foster, the Mighty Thor, and then someone else, which would be pretty cool. But who knows? Maybe
Yeah.
Hercules. Maybe, I don't know. Who
That'd
knows
be
what guys
wild.
may show up in this? We kind of saw like a little glimpse of Zeus, Russell Crowe playing Zeus, but
Yeah.
I am interested to see who the fuck else, like Beta Ray Bill might show up. Like, who the fuck knows? I mean, they showed nothing, which I like. It's just so funny that people are like, don't show anything in trailers, and then this trailer comes out and they're like, they didn't show us anything. It's like, what? I'm like, I love that about it. I love that it just kind of gives the vibe, and well, sort of the vibe. It's kind of, I think it's a very big bait and switch, because I don't think it's all going to be happy and
Yeah.
go lucky. I think it's going to change really fast. But that's fine. But I want to get into a few things I watched this week. So if you have not seen this, go and watch it until the wheels fall off. It's the Tony Hawk documentary on HBO Max. It is unbelievable. I posted a clip on my personal Facebook, actually, from Rodney Mullen talking near the end.
I did watch
And
that.
dude, that had to hit you like a ton of
Yeah.
bricks, especially with like
Yeah.
wrestling and stuff like that. Like anyone who
Yeah.
has a certain passion or is trying to like take things as maybe their hobby that they love and turn it into their job, just search like Rodney Mullen clip Tony Hawk doc. I'm positive it'll show up. It's unbelievable. And kind of just the whole thing hit me like that, because it definitely goes through Tony Hawk's like downs in his life. Obviously he's had tons of ups, but no one really knows about like the struggles he kind of faced like during his career and personally with himself. And that's one of my favorite parts of this documentary, is that it doesn't shy away from anything that might be like, oh wow, make him kind of look like a bad guy, but it's really just made him look human. And
Yeah.
I love that about it, as someone who like struggles with, burning the candle at both ends, and sometimes being very bad at finding a balance between things. Seeing how like that was one of Tony Hawk's like main things, um I could relate to that a lot, which is like so crazy to be like, oh, I can relate to something Tony Hawk went through. But
Yeah.
I love things where it kind of makes famous people seem human, because they are human. You know what I mean? Like they're just famous, but they
Right.
still deal with shit. Money
Yeah.
doesn't solve everything, even if you have a fuck ton of it. There's still shit you
Yeah.
go through on a daily basis. So I recommend watching that. It's amazing. I hope he gets nominated for a documentary for the Oscars, because it's so well done. It's really good. And
That'd be
then
awesome.
I got the opportunity to watch 6 out of 8 episodes of Barry season 3, which, as you're listening to this now, the first episode will be out on HBO Max. But I got early access to review it. I have a review up on the channel right now that you can go check out. It's very short. They gave me a list of things I could not even mention, which was pretty wild. But it's smart. It's smart that people, because there's a lot of twists that goes on. If you don't know what Barry is, it's Bill Hader. He has his own show on HBO that he writes and directs, and he is a hitman. He used to be in the Marines, then became a hitman, and then wants to become an actor. He thinks that's his purpose in life, and he kind of finds out that you can't really just leave being a hitman, and it's pretty wild. It's funny. The action scenes they kind of come out of nowhere, because they're really pretty brutal, and it's awesome. Go watch Barry. It's only the first season is only 6 episodes. The second season is only 8, and then the third season starts on the 24th. So it's not a lot to even catch up on if you wanted to start. And I do think HBO Max is going to kind of bring a huge uptick, because it is an HBO original show. And now with like people not really having cable and stuff like that, I think HBO Max is going to make it even more popular. It's won Emmys. People do like it that have watched it. It's just I feel like some people haven't even heard about it, but I think HBO Max will kind of elevate it a little bit. So check out my review on Barry. It's literally 5 minutes, and then go watch Barry. That's my recommendations. So I know you're watching ladder matches last week to prepare. So watching ladder
Yeah.
matches,
I was
or
watching
what? Do you,
tag team matches this week. Like I was watching I was
oh,
stuck in '80s tag team matches. Older like Heart Foundation and Brainbusters matches, but that's kind of the wave I've been on lately.
that's awesome. That's killer.
Yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know if
So
this is it's kind of just an old school. Sorry, it's just kind of like an old school poll. But if you saw the match between CM Punk and Dustin Rhodes this week, they took spots straight up from a Bret Hart Goldust match and put it in the
yeah,
match. I saw someone
yeah.
made a video of them doing like the
I
spot
saw that
from that
video.
match and the spot. I was like, wow,
Yeah, it
that
was
is
really cool.
awesome. That's
Yeah,
cool. But sorry, continue.
I gotta find ways to like. I wish I could watch the show live, just because like my work schedule, I'm always working during the
Right.
live broadcast. But yeah, I've been liking a lot of the stuff they've been doing on Dynamite lately, especially like the Punk matches. He's been on a roll, so
Yeah. It's
it
crazy
sounds like it
he's
was gonna
having
be
like
cool.
the best run of his life and he's 40 something. It's like
Yep.
wild. But I mean Sting is kind of
Yeah.
doing the same thing, but he's 50, 60 or whatever, however old he's old.
He's in his
Um
60s, I think.
but the way he's been doing stuff, I'm just like, this is I would have thought in a million years that
Yeah.
Sting would have even came back to wrestling for one. And for
Yeah.
two, like been booked like this. It's pretty incredible. He did the fucking mask spot again. Oh my god, that's the
Yeah.
best.
I'm always good for Sting pretending to be Sting.
It's
It
because
always
it's
works.
so obvious, but it's
Yeah.
so good. It's like
Yeah.
the most silly spot ever, but it's fucking iconic. It's great.
Yeah.
He's done it twice now in AEW
Yes.
alone.
Yeah.
So this one he had a hat on, so I think it added a little bit to it. But it was still good. It was still good. Is there anything else you've been watching, or is that it?
Just honestly just wrestling. Timberwolves are in a playoff series against the Grizzlies right now, so I've been keeping up with that as much as possible. They
Fair.
blew their game. They blew like the Grizzlies came back 26 points in like the second half, and it was tragic. But
Oh,
we'll see what happens. They weren't even expected to get into the play-in. Like they weren't expected to get past the Clippers, so everything's kind of extra
wow.
credit right now. But we'll see what happens. I didn't
Damn,
expect much from this team, so
who's even on the Timberwolves anymore? Like, is there
uh,
anyone
Carl
big on
Anthony
it? Like the
Carl Anthony Towns, D'Angelo Russell, Anthony Edwards,
oh,
Patrick
okay, okay,
Beverley's having a very good year for them, and they got like some good role players on there as well.
cool. I used to be
Yeah,
really into basketball in high school,
yeah,
and then I fell out of it. But last year I played a lot of 2K, so it kind of
yes,
got me in more of the know of like who was really good because I would play against
yeah,
someone and they'd be like fucking crazy, and I'm like, what the fuck?
yeah.
But it was it
2K
was
is one of my
it
vices
was
too. It's tough.
it was cool seeing some people that like I watched in college still in like the NBA when they like I
Yeah,
watched when they were in college and now they're still in the NBA. I'm like, oh, cool, nice. I was like, that's pretty cool. Like I saw like JJ Redick and I was like, holy shit. I was like, I remember watching him like the fucking tournament when I was,
yeah.
in high school. I was like, wild. I was like, cool, he's still
Guys in the
playing,
NBA,
I was like,
they have crazy longevity now.
yeah, it's nuts. It's super
Yeah,
nuts. But yeah, I love basketball. I think the Michael Jordan documentary kind of reignited. I don't watch it, but I was like, I want to play basketball. Like, I think that's what it made me want to do it. I
yeah,
was like, I just want to play basketball. But I think it was also
yeah,
winter when I watched it, so I just bought 2K and played that instead.
yeah.
I'm hoping to play some basketball this summer though, with some people. Hopefully,
Yeah.
it's for fun, funsies. All right, let's
Warm
get
up
an
first.
episode. Yeah. Dude. I can't do anything just straight out doing it.
Yeah,
That's a bad idea. I'll hurt myself. We're too old
yeah,
for that, Mike.
yeah.
Well, all right, let's get into Moon Knight episode 4, titled "The
Right.
Tomb." And this one kicks off right. Steven's passed out from helping Khonshu fucking rewind the sky like a bunch of psychos, and Harrow's men find him and Layla, and Layla has to like, distract them. She ends up blowing up the truck with a flare. This stuff is like very Indiana Jones, and
Yeah.
I did see a theory because a lot of the action in this episode in particular seemed a little ridiculous at points, and I'm wondering if it was done solely on purpose because of what happened at the end. We'll see.
Yeah.
It's kind of hard to tell, but so Layla blows up the truck with a flare, and then they're kind of riding out towards the tomb. Layla's kind of like, "Oh, should Marc come back for this?" And Steven's like, "Oh, hasn't he already abandoned you before?" And kind of tricks his way into staying in control. And she says, which this is harsh, the suit is his only good feature, and he doesn't even have that anymore. And I was like, "Damn, poor Marc." Felt bad for Marc
It's
in that
rough.
moment. It was rough. That was rough. It was
Yeah.
a rough statement, Layla. I mean, it's warranted, but still, pretty rough.
Yeah.
So they approach the tomb, and Marc is seeing that Steven has feelings for Layla. And I do kind of love that they dive more into this. And we talked about this last episode of how complicated that would really be.
Right.
And even Layla goes in to kiss Steven, but he blurts out that Marc is trying to protect her from Khonshu because he wants her to be his next avatar. Which I'm like, man,
Yes.
why do you gotta be such a good guy, bro? Like you can tell this episode he's just like a good guy. Like he's.
Yeah.
And then she's just kind of like, well, I should decide that for myself. He shouldn't decide that for me, which makes sense. And then Steven ends up kissing Layla. And then we get an awesome scene, like kind of Fight Club-esque, where Marc takes control for a second and punches Steven in the
Oh,
face.
that was
Which,
phenomenal.
that was so good.
Yeah.
Again, Oscar Isaac, the way he can switch and dude, it's unbelievable. I'm also a sucker for the whole mirror trick thing in shows when they have like an alternate personality, or if it's like a thing. This is a thing I didn't bring up. I started watching Russian Doll season 2, which is on Netflix, and that show is fucking wild. But season 2 deals with kind of this thing where it's almost like Freaky Friday, where they see themselves as
Yeah.
themselves, but they're actually another person. Something like that kind of happens. So I'm always like a sucker for that kind of stuff because I think it's just so impressive because they have to like film the same thing from two different people and match it all up and stuff. I just think it's insanely impressive, but it's just me. I don't know. I'm a sucker for that kind of
Yeah.
stuff.
No,
But
I totally get that.
they've done it really well with the whole Marc and Steven, and even like the reflective surfaces they do it on is pretty cool because it's not
Yeah.
like so straightforward. I mean, obviously it kind of has the caveat of wow, there's a lot of reflective surfaces and everywhere they go, but I do like how they've done it where it's things that kind of would make sense for the most part. It's not like anything like, oh, there's just a mirror there for no reason. Like even in the storage container or whatever, like it was the reflective surface of the wall. It wasn't like mirrors in the storage unit. You know what I mean?
Right.
But then they roped inside the tomb, and it looks like as they're seeing it, this is probably missed by a lot of people, but they see the statue, but it looks like Bast, which is like the Panther god from Black Panther. It looked like it
Yeah.
was a statue of him because in the comics, Bast is the cousin of Khonshu, I believe. So they're all kind of related, which is cool. And I think I did bring up that they might bring up the whole Avatar thing for Black Panther moving forward now that the heart-shaped herb
Yeah.
is burnt. So that was a cool thing that like could have been in like a subtle connection to that. I like that stuff. And then they kind of figured out that they're in a maze to find the tomb, which is really cool. It's again showing Steven's intelligence. And
Yeah.
then they find a fucking zombie ass priest trying to mummify humans, which was wild. And I loved
Yeah.
this part. I thought it was so like the Mummy, and I guess kind of Indiana Jones too. I would think more the Mummy, and this shit was awesome. They try and get away, like Steven gets away, but then Layla has this whole altercation where she fights it, rips off its arm and stabs it, and then puts a flare in his face and throws it off the cliff. What did you think of the zombie priest? ripping
Yeah,
brains out of some dude's nostrils.
it was creepy as hell. I got it gave me like Pan's Labyrinth vibes. Uh,
Ooh,
like that was the feeling I got during that whole scene, just like the anticipation of like the monster finding them, and then I like
yeah.
the part where he was like stabbing at Layla with like the broken off forearm. I thought that was pretty
That was
cool.
nuts.
Yeah, he's
That
just
was
like,
real
all right,
cool.
you're gonna rip my arm off, so I'm just, like, just no hesitation, just going right for it. And
Yeah, and it has no
yeah,
eyes. Like there's no eyes and shit. It's fucking
yeah,
wild.
it was amazing. But this whole so the whole like transition into the tomb and throughout this is interesting because like the intelligence and the knowledge of Egyptian history from Stephen is super valuable here,
Right.
but like
Yeah.
the fighting and espionage skills of Mark are almost equally as valuable. So
Yeah.
it was like kind of going back and forth, like, okay, like, is Steven just being selfish? I mean, he is, but is Steven being
Yes.
too selfish? Should Mark take over? How would this have gone if Mark was like handling like their descent like into this tomb? Like,
Right.
I don't know. I again, I've referenced this in other episodes, but for there to be a plot, there needs to be that miscommunication. But I'm like, damn, they'd be so effective if they just worked together.
I think that's going to be the conclusion is that they
Yeah,
realize that they're better off working together than fighting each other because again, this is kind of all new to them because Mark even says
yeah,
he's like I was usually really good at building up these walls and but now I can't anymore. Like more like it was like separate lives, kind of like the beginning of Fight Club where it was,
yeah,
Edward Norton's character and then Tyler Durden at the same time and no one like, Edward Norton didn't really notice. He just thought he was sleeping, and then he woke up and he was confused and shit like that. Same thing was happening to Steven. It was exactly like that. So I do think that'll be the conclusion that they're like, oh, we can do this shit together. We got this, and
yeah.
um, someone made this really good point too, is that as whichever alter is in control, you see the other from their perspective. And they're like forcing you to feel that. So it's almost like they're purposely making Steven more annoying and they're purposely making Mark feel more like a dick when Steven's in control.
Okay,
You know what I
yeah,
mean? Right? It's like
that
they're
makes a
doing it
ton
to
of sense.
force it on us so we see their perspective. And as we're getting into what happens in a few minutes, it plays this whole game of like, is this seen through a whole like a lens of an unreliable narrator? Because as we see stuff from another person's perspective, it looks very different, or it looks like there's nothing there
Yeah,
at all, and it paints this very question of like, what the fuck is really going on this whole
yeah,
time? It's wild, and I am excited to see how it plays out. I don't think it's like a whole. We'll get into it, but I don't think it's like a whole. It was in his head kind of thing. I don't think it's that because I think that would be I don't think people would be very happy about that, and I don't think they're doing
no,
that. But
no,
we'll get to that. So Layla runs into Harrow, and Harrow reveals that Mark was at the scene or was part of the team when her dad got killed, which is obviously a pretty big reveal.
yeah,
And Harrow kind of alluded to something of this last episode. But then Stephen finds the sarcophagus and he finds out it's the sarcophagus of Alexander the Great, who was like a big conqueror of Europe who got obsessed with Egyptian
yeah,
mythology and shit like that. And then he finds out that Amit's last avatar was Alexander the Great. Pretty wild. And kind of adds in this
yeah,
cool historical retcon, for the MCU in this from what we know, is that he was an avatar of an Egyptian god. Pretty wild. And then he thinks he's like, oh, Alexander was Amit's voice. So he finds the statue inside of his fucking rotted, mummified face, basically.
that was
And
vile.
it was pretty gross. Yeah.
Yeah,
And then Layla confronts Steven, but calls out Mark, switches to Mark, and is like, you were there, you knew my dad, like you saw my dad get killed. And he's like, hey, it wasn't me. I did not kill your dad. My partner killed everyone. He killed me. Saying like, oh yeah, that's how Khonshu saved him. He got killed by his partner in this big massacre at a dig site. years ago. But she is super upset, obviously, because she knew about her, her husband knew about her father getting killed and was there. And she puts together that, hey, that's the only reason we know each other, because he probably searched her out. It wasn't this like, oh, we met each other and fell in love. It's like it happened because of circumstance, which sucks. But I do
Yeah,
love how Steven was just like, as soon as she was like, Mark, what the fuck? And he's just like, I'm out. Just gave it to Mark. He's like, I'm out of here. I'm not dealing with this.
yeah,
That was pretty funny. What did you think about that whole thing of the Alexander the Great stuff, and then the Layla and Mark confrontation?
yeah. Like the Alexander the Great stuff. I thought it was really cool. Like I'm not super familiar. If I was in the middle of history class, I would definitely be like way more caught up on Alexander the Great's relationship with
Of course.
ancient Egypt. But even just like approaching it here, that was super cool.
Yeah.
And him like just having to reach down to that in that mummy's mouth was disgusting. Like I felt like I could
Yeah,
almost
pretty gross.
smell it as it was happening. Uh,
Damn.
but as we mentioned before, like when he switches into Mark Spector mode from Steven, like Oscar Isaac is just flexing in this role. Like his
Straight up.
subtlety with like the facial expression in the eyes is, dude, he's so good. Like I can't say enough good things about like his acting skill here. Like
Yeah.
I just remember like being taken aback like as I was watching it, like sitting on my couch. I was like, wow, this guy's good.
He's very fucking good. He's
Yeah.
very good. I'm glad we have him in the MCU. It's
Oh
pretty
yeah.
fucking great. I definitely think he's getting nominated for an Emmy for this shit. There's no way he's
He
not.
better be.
He has to. I
Yeah.
mean, Elizabeth Olsen and WandaVision kind of trailed the path with that kind of stuff. So I do think
Yeah.
he'll get nominated for sure. I don't see why not. I think even Jeremy Renner might get nominated for Hawkeye, because he did really really good in that one too. It was a very emotional story
Yeah.
with him. But then of course Harrow's men show up, and Mark takes out a bunch of them, and I loved he used fucking Alexander the Great's dope ass looking hatchet,
Yeah.
throws it and takes out one of the men. That was pretty dope.
Yeah.
And then Harrow shoots Mark in the chest twice, shoots him.
Yep.
And then he says, I can't save anyone who can't save themselves. He falls back in the water. And then we see him. If you see when he falls in the water, it's very shallow. Like his head is still out of the water. He's only in a few inches. But then we see his body just drifting down. It looks like he's falling into the sunken place from Get Out. And then we see this movie start playing. It's very Indiana Jonesy, looks very 80s. And we find out that the main character is named Dr. Stephen Grant. And then it pans out, and we're in a fucking insane asylum.
Yep.
And this is the moment I talked about where I said, if you liked Lemire's run in Moon Knight,
Yep.
you're going to lose your
Yeah.
mind when this scene happens. Because when
Yeah.
I saw that, I was like, I cannot believe they're doing this. Holy shit.
Right.
And then of course, we see Mark right there in the insane asylum. And the attention to detail they put in this insane asylum. It's
Yeah.
all the people he's encountered throughout the show. It's his boss. I think it's the girl he stood up on the dates. You see the two quote unquote cops that took him away to Harrow's men. You even see a dude wheeling cupcakes that had the cupcake truck in episode 1. Crowley, the gold man that he talked to that pretended to be a statue, he's there fucking rifling off bingo numbers. It's wild. And even like his boss is holding like a scarab plushie. Someone is drawing a hummingbird that's the face of Khonshu. It's wild. And then he's
Yeah.
kind of freaking out, and he tries to get up out of his wheelchair, but he is attached to the wheelchair in an ankle brace, just like how he had one on his bed.
Right.
And he sees that he has a Moon Knight action figure.
Yeah.
Crazy. What was
Yeah.
your first reaction when you found out it's like in a mental institution? Because I'm sure when the movie came on, same with me, we were like, what the fuck is this? And then when
Yeah.
the mental institution kind of revealed, like, what were you thinking when that happened?
Yeah. I was definitely like very confused in the movie. I'm like, am I getting an ad or something? Like, I don't know. But yeah, when they went to the mental hospital, I'm like, oh, they're doing the Lemire thing. It's like, I'm so into it. I was so
Yeah.
happy to see like them taking this route, and and it's cool because anyone who's like a fan of the character and has read any of the comic books, like they've read that run, they know that run.
Right.
But it's so out there for anyone who's been following the show. Like
Yeah.
it's just nice to have that duality with it, to like play off of the different audiences of the show in that way. So yeah, I'm glad that this was like the twist of this episode. It made me very happy to see.
It was a big one. It was a big one,
Yeah,
and I'm so stoked they went this way. I was like, my jaw was on the floor like the whole ending of this episode. I was like,
yeah.
holy fuck, because I did not see this coming. I was like, whoa, I cannot believe
Oh,
they're doing this, and obviously they're alluding that everything was made up in Steven's mind. Even the
yes,
fact that his doctor is Arthur Harrow, of course. He has a cane.
yeah,
He has the slippers. He has statues of alligator head stuff like Ahmet, and he is even like talking to him. He's like, "Oh yeah, the main character has this obsession with this lunar god," and he kind of just saying like, "Hey, you painted all in this in your head." But obviously, for a mental institution, it looks very odd. Like no one serves
yeah,
cupcakes in a mental institution. His office looks like the one place where Mr. Knight ends up coming in episode 2. It's all just very too surreal.
yeah,
And then he ends up getting out of there and escapes out of the office, because then he says something similar. He's like, I can't help you if you can't help yourself. And he's kind of starting realizing, I think this isn't real. And I think
yeah,
most people were realizing that too, but maybe not. Even if not, that's fine. If you don't have the comic background, you're probably not like, oh, this is all like an illusion or in his head or they're in another dimension or something like that. But if you're like watching this, just like, I don't know anything about Moon Knight, and you're probably like, what? Like, you probably think the same thing. Like, this is all in his head. Like, the dude's fucking crazy, you know? And he gets out of there. He goes out into a hallway. The hallway stretches out and starts swaying, which is it's very Inception. And I guess there was
yeah.
a scene of a floating boat in one of the trailers, which is probably where they are. I'm gonna get into more where I think they are. I think there's a few options, but he goes and he finds a sarcophagus in a room. It opens up. Steven's in it, which is, they hug each other. They're so happy to see each other, which is hilarious
Yeah,
because hours earlier Marc punched him in the face for kissing his wife. So it
right.
came a long way in a short time. But it was so cool to see them together. Pretty wild. I read a thing that I think they use Oscar Isaac's brother as a stand-in for a lot of this, which is pretty cool.
Okay.
And so they're trying to figure out what to do, and they're like, "Hey, what's last remembered? Oh, Harrow shot me. Okay, cool. Something's going on, but like we're on the same page here." They see another sarcophagus banging on it, which has to be Jake Lockley. I think we might get Jake Lockley next
Yeah,
episode.
it's
Maybe
gotta be.
it's got to be him. We're gonna see Oscar Isaac in a mustache, probably.
One can only hope.
And I mean, I would assume because it kind of just is Marc in a way, not really, but kind of. So I hope we see him next episode. I think we do. And then they go and a door opens up and the hippo-headed Egyptian god Taweret goes out, and like the detail in like the CGI and this is pretty incredible. The ears
Yeah.
wiggling and shit, and like the nostrils flaring. It's very well done. And she just says hi and they both scream, which is, that was a great ending to this episode.
Yeah.
And so that Egyptian god is the god of like regeneration and rebirth, which could be helping Marc and Steven come back to life, maybe.
Yeah.
So before I get into what I think where they might be, what do you think of this ending after obviously the big shock twist of they're in a mental institution? But what do you think of the ending part where he talks with Harrow and then finds Steven and then they say hippo lady?
Yeah, for me, like I'm very much along for the ride on this because like that's my favorite run in the comics, and I'm I know how they work their way in and out of that situation in the comics. I'm very interested to
Right.
like, see how closely they follow along in the live action version. And then so you open the first sarcophagus, right? Why
Hmm.
not open the second? Like
I don't
why
know.
just stop and look? Like I don't understand. But uh I saw someone else say this on Twitter too. when they open the door and they run into her, the voice caught me off guard pretty much because I was
Yeah,
you see,
yeah,
you see the big hippo head, and I'm just like I'm expecting something else here, but it's like, oh hi, like,
yeah,
and they just freak out anyways. So
yeah, yeah.
I'm interested to see too, like because in the comics, like the whole thing was kind of uh not a, I wouldn't say a test by Khonshu, but like
Kind
it
of, I
was
guess.
set
Yeah.
up by Khonshu to like work him out of it. So
Yep.
I'm just interested to see like what route they take with it.
Yeah. So yeah, in the comics, they end up. It's like an illusion by Khonshu, kind of, but they
Yes.
are in. I do believe they are in the Overvoid in that,
Yeah.
which was already talked about by the Ennead in earlier episodes. But at first, I was like, "Oh, they're in the Overvoid with all the other Egyptian gods." But then I thought, "Oh, that's where the other gods are." So he might be in some version of like the underworld or like
Yeah.
afterlife or some kind of like the journey to the afterlife or something. But I'm wondering if like that's where any of the gods that got turned to stone are. Maybe.
Yeah. It's a really good
And then
point.
there's also the theory that where we are now is in Mark and Steven's head, and that's why they're both there. And they've kind of like he went into a coma and he created this like illusion of himself inside his head to keep him alive, which we've seen in things like Mr. Robot or even The Sopranos, where Tony was in a coma and then lived this really weird dream. It also happens in The Leftovers as well. They like on the brink of death and they go to this weird like purgatory, alternate reality basically. So it could be something like that, and it's kind of him working his way back to life somehow. Having the Egyptian god of regeneration, I'm sure would help. I'm sure that's a good
Yeah.
start.
Right.
But I do think this is where they kind of reconcile. We could end up seeing flashbacks of what started their trauma, how Mark became Moon Knight, stuff like that. Kind of like what WandaVision did near the end. You kind of saw these like the origin of the Scarlet Witch in ways. We saw a bunch of stuff we've never seen before, like her as a kid, her being experimented by Hydra. We could see something similar with this, but with Mark and Steven. Because it's this whole thing of Steven thinks he thinks he's the main identity, and so does Mark. And I think Mark needs to kind of come to terms with, I need to work together with all these alters and kind of accept, not bottle everything in and be more honest and open as a person. And Steven needs to realize that, it's not just him and then Mark came and ruined his
Yeah.
life. They're one and the same. And I feel like that might be a lot for Steven to handle, which is understandable.
Yeah.
I did read something too that Mark created Steven mostly because of him closing himself off from Layla, because obviously he's super smart in Egyptian lore, loves French poetry. Like he created it as like everything that like Layla loves,
Oh,
as like a
yeah.
kind of defense mechanism, and that's what created the personality, which could be true. And I'm sure that even if they don't explain it, whatever. But that was like a
Yeah.
cool thing I read. I was like, oh, that's really smart and makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's
It's a
it's
very
very
interesting
interesting to see
theory.
how the next episode goes. There was a TV spot that showed Harrow and Moon Knight facing off, so I'm sure we're gonna get the big end battle like
Yeah.
most comic booky things. But I really don't know where this is going, and that's always kind of exciting. So I am excited to see where they kind of explain where they are, if they are in some kind of, if this is just in his head, or if they really did go to some sort of like afterlife journey kind of thing, which is kind of a thing in a lot of TV shows. Like I mentioned,
Yeah.
I named off a pretty just off the top of my head. And I'm sure there's more. Even DC's Titans had one too. So it's very possible it could be something like that rather than it's just it's in his head and it's manifesting, because that's what in the comics the only time the alters can interact with each other are inside his head. But we'll see how it goes. I love this show. I know
Yeah.
some people aren't going to be the highest on everything. My best friend John actually said he didn't like this episode at all, which I was like, really
I
weird.
don't know how
But
this episode had so much to like.
I don't know, man.
I don't know.
I
I
was
don't
like,
know.
I'm surprised, man. He's like,
Yeah,
I don't know. He's like, I really like the first 3 episodes. He's like, this one didn't land for me, and I'm like, all right, fair enough.
everyone's entitled to their opinion, but I don't know how you could. There's just so much going
Yeah,
on. We went through a lot.
yeah, I thought it was great. It started off like a mummy adventure, and then turned into this wild fucking mind fuck
Yeah,
at the end. That's why I loved about it. It was such like a turn, right?
yeah,
Not even at like the end. It was like the last like 10 minutes of the episode or something like that. I think it might have been longer. It wasn't just like a crazy twist and it ended. It went on for a while. Like I was surprised it kept
yeah,
going when I was watching it. I was like, oh shit, like they're still going. I was like, whoa. That's one thing I don't think I've like really seen, because usually it ends with somebody in a coma and then the next episode starts and you're like, what the fuck is going on, kind of thing. I don't know if
yeah.
I've ever seen something like this where it happens like in the middle of the episode and then it goes on till the end. Like that to me seemed very new and fresh to me. Where I was like, because so many people are like, "What the fuck is going on?" And I'm like, "Exactly." I was like, "That's exactly what they wanted to do to you," and I love that. So
That's a good point too. And off the top of my head, I really can't think of anything that mirrors that.
yeah,
So maybe we're
I just
we're
realized.
breaking some new ground here.
That. Yeah, I just
Yeah,
realized that. I'm sure there might be something, but
yeah,
I watch a lot of shit. So like even the things I listed off, I've watched all of them. So um I wonder, maybe, but if not, it's something that hasn't really happened a lot, which is cool, because usually it's you leave on the cliffhanger. That's TV. They're like, oh fuck, I want the next episode, which is it's part of the point, which they did still, because you're still like, where the fuck, how is this going to conclude? Like we don't really have answers either, which is cool. So they kind of gave us the best of both worlds in that, which I like that. But yeah, can't wait to see how this, because now I'm caught up. I'm with you guys. I have not seen anything past
yeah.
this. I'm kind of bummed because I guess they accidentally uploaded episode 5, but they realized it was a mistake and took it off, and some people have seen it, and a lot of people have said this episode was their favorite episode of Marvel television. And I saw other people post, never mind, it's not my favorite, because they saw episode 5. So I'm
Oh
hoping
man.
they keep upping the ante here. So I'm
As long as I
I'm
don't
I'm
see any more
stoked,
spoilers, bro. I can't do any more
dude.
spoilers.
Yeah, this is the first week I have to stay off the internet until I watch it.
Yeah,
It's been nice because usually we watch it late at night because Sam works, and we watch it.
yeah,
Obviously, we watch this stuff together. So I usually just stay off the internet until we watch it Wednesday night, whenever we watch it. But it's been nice to not have to worry about it. It's like I can go on the internet freely and not worry about anyone spoiling it because I've already seen it. Don't need to worry about it. That's been nice. That's been nice. The only thing that's been weird is trying to talk about it and remembering, because I watched them all in a row. So some certain moments I was like, oh, that happens in this episode or this episode. So I had to be very
yeah,
vague and be like, did this thing happen? If I ask, I'm like, oh, okay, cool, and then I'll elaborate. But if not, I'm like, never mind. I'm like, no, never mind. I can't. I don't want to ruin it for you. So I tried to make it vague so I didn't ruin anything for anyone. But yeah,
yeah.
it was kind of hard to tiptoe around certain
Well, you
things.
gotta
Like I
you gotta
kept I
catch up
kept
with the
that
rest of
twist
the.
secret for a month.
Yes, you did. Now you
But
gotta
that's why I
catch
was
up with the
hyping
rest
up.
of the peasants now.
Yeah, which I'm fine with. I love watching things week to week. So, but it gave me the opportunity to watch a bunch of other stuff. So
Yeah,
I'll take it. I'll take it. Getting that berry shit was cool. So
I do
I
have to
like that.
watch that.
I
I'm
think you would like
terrible at
that show a
watching
lot,
shows. I probably
dude.
would. I'm terrible at watching shows, man. Like this is the first thing I've watched in terms of a series since
Right?
probably Last Dance came out. Like I watched Last Dance,
Damn,
uh, all the way. Yeah, I'm terrible at watching shows. I'm just
that's fair.
I don't have the attention span.
Barry's like the episodes are like 25 minutes long, so
Yeah,
it's like super easy to watch. It like flies. You don't even realize you watch a whole season. You're just like, oh, it's over. Okay, but hell yeah, man. Is there anything else you wanna let the people know before we get out of here?
I mean, I got my wrestling dates coming up as always. So
Check
if
them
you
out.
check me out, my name's right there. That's my at on literally everything, and you can find out what I'm doing there. And once again, I
Yeah,
appreciate you. Let me come on the show, talk Moon Knight. This is such like I'm so glad. Like I mentioned earlier, the episode 4 lived up to the hype. We're in such an exciting part of the show, and to be in like the Lemire portion of the series is very exciting. And I'm interested to see how they wrap all this up with just 2 episodes left. Like that's not a lot of time, so
Same. Yeah,
they're
I
gonna they're gonna
think
have to keep it moving pretty fast.
yeah, I do think the episode length will be the same for the. They've all been kind of like 45 to like 50 minutes.
Yeah,
I do think that I would have no reason to see why the last two wouldn't be around the same length. And they, as you see, they could fit a lot into that time. So I do have
yeah,
faith that they can make it happen. But yeah, like I said when we started this and in my non-spoiler review, it's like this is living up to be one of my favorite MCU series. So as long as they kill it with these next two, it might beat out Loki. I did start another thing. Sorry to go off another tangent. I did restart WandaVision because I'm trying to prep for Multiverse of Madness, and
yeah,
I forgot how. I didn't forget, but it's nice to like watch it knowing what happens at the end because the beginning you're so much like what is really going on, and it is nice to kind of rewatch it and see the things build up. But I want to watch that and Loki before Doctor Strange 2. We'll see if I get through all of it because I have been trying
yeah,
to watch Russian Doll too because that season 2 dropped too. But yeah, go rewatch WandaVision. I think a lot of people who shit talked the ending didn't appreciate as much because I think sometimes the week to week curse at things because they kind of it's weird because TV shows are kind of made to be watched at once like a big movie if you really think about it, and the
yeah,
week to week can kind of enhance things or ruin things. It's a double edged sword there. It's because there's like anticipation versus just like watching it straight through, but it is what it is. But I'll let you get out of here. You got a big match today, and
appreciate that.
we'll be back next week to see how what the fuck is going on
We absolutely will.
with Mark and Steven and hopefully Jake. Hopefully Jake.
Oh man,
Hopefully we
give
get
me
him.
that Jake Lockley.
But
Need it.
awesome guys. You know the drill. If you're new, subscribe, like, comment, hit me up on Twitter at Metalcore Nerds. A lot of awesome interactions there. And if you want to join the Metalcore Nerds community, there's links in the bio to join the Facebook and the Discord. And until next time, see you later, nerds.